Mm-hmm.
Three, two, one.
Hello. Please keep the camera rolling. This is fucking great.
I am.
All right. Welcome to Storytime, broadcast dedicated to illuminating the lives of the participants in the legacy photography project titled Black Magic. I'm your host, Adam. All right. We are gathered here today with all of my cameras to talk about cameras. Most specifically about my upcoming solo exhibition at the Atlanta Center for Photography titled Now You See Me. It's on the mirror because it's a reflection in the mirror. You see yourself in the mirror. We'll get to that in a second. The show is, I want to say, one of my best ideas ever, but I think it's because it is dedicated to my younger sibling, Imani. Story goes, years and years and years ago, this one I don't even remember how many years ago. It feels like it's been a known fact for quite a while, beautifully known fact. Imani came out to me, and I was still living in LA, much younger people, and I remember being at a gathering of friends, getting a phone call, going outside to take the phone call, getting the news, hearing how nervous and anxious and excited and free Imani felt. I'm an older brother by 4 years, so to hear your younger sibling say such beautiful words and really open themselves up to you as an older sibling, it was a beautiful thing. It's also really nerve-wracking experience to be a recipient of that news, not because it wasn't a beautiful statement that was made, but it was around the time that a lot of violence around LGBTQIA plus people around America and around the world was becoming more prominent in the media. And I remember getting the phone call, going back to that gathering and kind of having just like butterflies in my chest, and then felt like my heart sank into my foot, kind of at the same time. I remember going into the basement, and one of the people that were at the gathering noticed my demeanor change and went downstairs to kind of just check on me and was like, hey, what's going on? And I told them, like, hey, this is what had happened, and burst into tears. And it wasn't because I wasn't proud or celebratory. It was mostly, and I said this out loud to them, it was like, I'm worried for their safety. Even in moments of accepting who you are and telling those that you care about most who you are, which is a privilege, should be a right. And to go from celebrating to almost immediately being a strategist for this person's survival, even in the smallest of ways, has really shifted how I see a lot of things. And so being able to convey a message of love and celebration while also acknowledging how society endangers these people. There's no other way to put it. You're literally putting people in danger, whether through legalities, whether through legislation, or just day-to-day macro aggressions, physical violence against people that most of the time no one really even knows anything about or don't really care to get to know anybody. It's kind of sad. Not even kind of sad, it's more than kind of sad, it's ridiculously sad. And the idea for this show, when given the opportunity by ACP, was kind of a no-brainer. This camera that I used, this really big camera, is named Imani. I name all my cameras. This is Carmen, R.I.P. Haven't really named this camera yet. This is a digital camera. I don't really use it that often. I kind of use it just to scan my film. We'll get into that in a second. This is Hallie. This is one half of Hallie and Barry. I have, as you know, first crush ever. This is William, named after my dad. This is Vanessa. This is the camera I use most often when I'm on tour, in the studio, at the rodeo, wherever. I typically bring Vanessa everywhere I go. It's funny, I was with Vanessa, my mother, earlier today. Hi, Mom. And the biggest and brightest, in my opinion, in my family, clearly has to go to Imani. Funny enough, I bought Imani and William on the same exact day. I don't remember how many years ago now. I found these cameras on Craigslist. And because I travel so much doing what I get to do in life, I'm always looking for cameras. And no matter where I find them, it's like, oh, if I'm gonna be close to that city at one point, let me go try to see what's going on there. And I saw this 8x10 camera, which an 8x10 camera produces an image that is 8 inches by 10 inches, i.e. this portrait of the absolute best dog in the world, Carmen. Again, R.I.P. I saw that camera online and reached out to the seller. I was like, hey, is this still for sale? They said yes. And as Craigslist does, it shows you other similar listings. And I see this big camera, 16-inch by 20-inch camera, that looked as if it was shot in the same room as the 8x10. Click that link. Hey, is this you? The same person selling the other one? Yeah, I'm actually selling both of them. Hey, what's your phone number? That was my immediate response. Like, what is your phone number? Because I want to see these because they look like they're real. I want to make sure that they are real because if they are real, I'm going to just go get these cameras. Get this number, FaceTime. It's an older white gentleman. Don't even remember his name. God bless you. Thank you. Kudos, salute, bruh. You a good nigga. Well, you're not anyway. FaceTime the guy. Both cameras is literally on a tripod right next to each other. You're like, yeah, here they are. I was like, oh, okay, I'm booking a plane ticket tonight. I think it might have been a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I'm booking a plane ticket to get to you in Connecticut by the weekend. Book a plane ticket that night. I have nowhere to stay. I have no way to get around. I have no plans. I just have this older gentleman saying he's going to sell me the camera. By miraculous connections made via the internet, I just so happen to have an acquaintance of mine who is gracious enough to reach out to his family that is based in Connecticut. I got to stay at his childhood home with his actual family. It was really cool. And pick up this camera, these cameras. I went by. The gentleman made these cameras by hand. These aren't just one of the old school studio rail cameras you can buy from a factory. He made these himself. In fact, the cameras were sold, stored, made, and photographed in a lumber yard. He was a carpenter as well. He used scrap hardwood from the lumber yard to build these cameras. And when I got there and saw them in person, I knew they had to come home with me. The main reason why they had to come home with me, outside of just sheer curiosity and I kind of feel like a fail if I didn't take them home with me, try feeling all that way, is because he sold them to me for $100 each. It's a very clear sign that someone was going to put them to good use. And for this particular idea for Now You See Me, it feels like such a joyous occasion to draw such large attention by way of the size of these images to this specific message. The message being, in short, you can't really see anyone for who they truly are unless you see yourself first. It's a very simple call, an urgent call for empathy. And pictures have a way of doing so if you embed that kind of message into them. Cameras are tools, if wielded properly, to incite empathy, to incite a level of relatability and understanding of people, places, and things that you would not have otherwise had an opportunity to see. With modern technology, everyone's a photographer. I actually fuck with that. I love that everyone's a photographer because we're able to see so much, whether it's what you ate for dinner last night, whether it's genocide, whether it's a ballroom dance party, whether it's the birth of your child. It all exists for some of the most amazing reasons, just so we can see them the following day. In fact, I started photography with an iPhone when I was 17, 18, something like that. The day I graduated high school, bought an iPhone, went to Manhattan within a week and just started shooting every photo I could with a phone, and eventually upgraded to a digital camera and so on and so forth, running around New York City as a teenager, someone in their early 20s, trying to just navigate a creative landscape within such a massive city to try to find a voice, to try to find what there was to even say in the first place. Moved to LA, get all artsy fartsy, you start buying film cameras. That's when you lose lots of money. It's worth it, but if you don't find something to say with these tools, it can get a little tough. You're wading in really deep creative waters, and the journey to find what to say is a beautiful one, and I'm glad that at least for this idea, I found something to say with it. The reason why there's a bunch of cameras here is not just to flex. Again, $100. I don't have any money. This is not a I have more money than you contest. I don't. Trust me. I promise. $100. Shouts to Sid. I'm not going to say thank you. $150, $400. All pandemic purchases, by the way. The reason why all these cameras are here is because this exhibition, to me, is just as much a celebration of the tools to tell a message, to tell a story, as it is the story or the message itself. This is a sculptural piece. This camera, Imani, is a sculpture. Cameras are sculptures if you look at them as such, in the right context. And to know what each camera can do, the result that it can bear, is very important. And when you go into this exhibition, you don't think about the camera used to make the image. Because most of the time when you walk into a photography exhibition, chances are it's printed via a printer, which is totally fine. That's actually fantastic. The fact that we can print so many images at such crazy sizes nowadays. We can print them so big if we wanted to. But going back to the origins of this medium, you can't print or make an image that big without having a camera that is that big. So I kind of want to break down what each camera does and the results it yields and explain the science behind these images that are going to be in Now You See Me, starting with 35mm camera. Nikon F2 for all the nerds. Best camera, in my opinion, that's ever been made, ever, for any reason whatsoever. Best 35mm camera ever. But for those of you that may not have ever seen a 35mm negative, they look like this. They're tiny little images, really, really small images that once put through an enlarger can be made into beautifully detailed prints with all the right equipment. But they're really, really small, hence 35 millimeter. Once you go up into medium format, which in this case with Halley, the McNear RB67, you produce a negative that looks like this. A bit bigger in comparison to a 35 millimeter negative. There's a lot more information, a much larger sensor size. And by sensor, I'm mostly talking about the mirror by way of the lens that you can project light onto a negative. The name of the game in photography, light and projection. If you can measure light, utilize it well, or well enough per se, you're able to make a pretty solid image. We're going from 35 millimeter to medium format to large format. The camera that I use most often is Vanessa. When I make tintypes, which the images in Now You See Me aren't necessarily tintypes, although that's kind of what I've pigeonholed myself to do, which, love it. The difference between a tintype and the image that I've made for this show is a simple prefix change. Instead of tin, it's ambro. Ambro, I'm assuming Latin? I don't know. Don't quote me. It's for glass. I use mirrors for these images, and there's a very distinct and scientifically based reason for that. The start of that is when you see a tintype, let's say of, not the name drop, but Raven Lenae. You have a tintype of Raven Lenae. It looks black and white, right? On the surface, on the internet, in a frame, this image would appear to be black and white because it kind of is. It is. It looks black and white because A, the metal used to make this image is coated in a black lacquer. That provides the depth in the shadows that appears black. The emulsion layer, which I'm not going to get too sciencey on you because I don't really care to do that myself. The emulsion layer where the image actually resides, the highlights of this image that provide all the depth and the detail, is actually gray. And it varies in a gradient of the color gray, and mixed with the background of the lacquer that is black, you get a black and white image. You can actually make a tintype of a bunch of different colors. For example, if I can actually get this out of here. For example, you can make a tintype in any color you want. For example, I made one a couple years back. I haven't really made any colored tintypes since, even though they're of colored people. No? Okay. If I can get this out. It's red. I'm going to just say it's red. I'm going to try to take it out here so you can get a better look, but it's getting stuck. But you can make a tintype of whatever color you want, and it's mostly because the color of the metal is different. If the metal is coated in a red lacquer, same principle applies. Highlights are bright, shadows are dark. They rely on the color of the actual object that the image is projected onto, not projected, developed onto. And then you have the actual image itself, a varying gradient of gray on top of red as opposed to black. With that idea in mind, granted, this is all science-based. This isn't just like, oh, let me just go outside with my Mark 12 and make a photo. This is like the opposite of the new age stuff. Anything you see camera-wise, whether it's an actual Mark IV or an iPhone, is all derivative of the rest of these cameras here. Mostly these three over here. It's all an experiment with a hypothesis. Oh, if I can make one in black, I could probably make one in red. I can make them in green. I recently was a part of a show in San Francisco where I made them with actual gold. It's all possible. With that in mind, I was like, I wonder if I can use whatever solid object and see what can come of it. Around the same time I made these red tintypes, I tried out making a tintype, or what I thought was a tintype, on a mirror. This is my friend Veronica, also known as VCR. This was made at the Black Image Center a couple years back. And once I saw that there was an actual image made onto it, I was like, oh, if this is possible, oh, it's a wrap. Because the idea of celebrating Imani in that moment and people within that community has been on my mind for years, and how to convey that photographically. The light bulb went off in my head the moment that I knew this was possible. You can see Veronica, maybe not on camera. I can see it perfectly well. She looks great. The difference is between Raven, Hanna, and VCR here. You can see her, but you kind of can't. At least not at first glance, which is an allegory that I'll try to bring full circle in a minute. The appearance, or even lack thereof, of a fully cleared image is in response to the lack of color or the lack of base on the object that is supposed to hold the depth, hold the shadows, hold the darker spots of the image. Which means you have a gray emulsion in a varying gradient of the color gray, but it has no color to it. And if it's a mirror, it only takes on the colors of what's in front of it. It only takes on the appearance or the shadows or the depth of what you actually see and put in front of it. So literally, I can't see it from the side. I can't see it looking this way. The literal only way I can see this image of Veronica is if I look at her head on. And the reason for that is because I'm filling in the shadows with my own reflection. That's how the show works. You're gonna walk into the Atlanta Center for Photography. You're gonna see these really cool frames on the wall. There's gonna be a bunch of dope stuff around the room. I'm not gonna do any spoilers. But from a side angle, it's gonna like nothing, which I think is sick. The literal only way you can see these images of these queer black people in Atlanta is to look at your own reflection first. It's almost in a way questioning, how can people think so little or think so poorly on people that they know nothing about? That they haven't made the effort or taken the time to put themselves in a position, uncomfortable or not, to look themselves in the mirror while also looking at someone who has a totally different lived experience than they do. Because the second you do that, you actually realize, oh, we're not that different. And the way to convey that message through an image, rather than being like, oh, see, look at my gay friends, look at my trans friends, arm in arm, hanging out, getting ice cream cones. No, look at them. Very simple gesture, just look at them and be like, oh, I see myself in them. And oh, this is a really big picture, which means there's a high value in making their likeness big, because there are a million different reasons why, especially today, calls for empathy is literally the first step in any change happening in the world. There's legislation removing very crucial information, verbiage, and history from government websites. There are the whole sign on the bathroom thing has been going on for way too fucking long. Just go take a piss, man, and then get the fuck out of the bathroom. It's very simple. Like, there's so many different, in my opinion, stupid blockages towards progress just because people refuse to look at themselves and question, why do these biases exist? And as an artist, of course, we have to participate as citizens, whether you believe in voting or not, or participating through the more democratic legal processes that exist in this country and in this world. As an artist, you gotta say something. In some way, somehow participate. And I think to celebrate my love, my obsession with both this medium of photography and my family and friends, this to me felt like the perfect marriage between the two. Cameras saved my life. Queer people have saved my life, literally. It's an ode to the use of the camera to display the humanity in a people that, to be honest, aren't really that much different than any of us to begin with. Yep. Show opens, when is it open? September 18th in Atlanta, which was also a very intentional choice. What better city to talk about gay niggas than Atlanta? It makes perfect sense. And it'll be happening on the heels of Atlanta Black Pride, which would be, it's gonna be so fun. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the cameras, Imani will be there. Imani will be there, so you can see Imani, which I also think is a very important statement to make, because people don't see cameras like this, ever. People see cameras like these. If you're a hipster, you might have one of these. If you wear lots of Carhartt, you might have one of these. If you're torturing yourself with art school, you may have one of these or have access to one of these. These two, not so much, but especially not that one. So it helps to bridge the gap between your knowledge of what photographic possibilities exist and the tools used to execute those ideas and bring those images into the world. It'll be there in the gallery, displayed with a lens on it, so you can actually see yourself on the ground glass in the back of the camera, and you can take pictures of yourself through the lens in the front. The goal is both an educational piece, but also a statement for empathy and humanity. I think that's kind of it. Yeah. We should all have, yeah, I don't want to make that statement. That sounds stupid. I was going to say, we should all have gay friends. Yeah, that's stupid. We should just all care about each other, no matter who the fuck, you know? But I think telling a queer, black story is important, right now and forever. But especially right now. Now You See Me opens at the Atlanta Center for Photography, September 18th, 2025.